Hey everyone, welcome to Financial Revelations. I am David Safransky, your host, and in an unusual move, I am sporting headgear today because it says something very significant that we're going to go over. And I know what you're thinking. I had this hat made. Nobody makes a hat like this. Not true. People actually make hats like this, and I found it. I have a couple others that I'm going to wear over the next couple of weeks. They're very important because these things are happening. One of the hats that I'm going to wear is not true. It says I suck at investing, but I love that hat anyway. I like to set it behind my desk, and I can watch people's eyes when they're looking around and they see that hat. And it's funny because I'm going to invest their money, and I have a hat that says I suck at investing. Anyway, every Thursday morning you can catch me on WCRF 103.3 in Cleveland. All this is going to be running below me in a scroller. The Moody Radio App is a great place. It's a great thing to download because no matter where you're at on the planet, truly wherever you're at on the planet, you can listen now because if you have Starlink with you, you have 200 megabyte download speed in the middle of the jungle like me. When I go to the jungle, which we are doing in June, you can go to nativosusa.org if you'd like to contribute. I love when you do. I'm humbled and honored by some of the contributions that all of the contributions. I take that as a level of trust that you have in me that money is going to go to what I say it is. And I promise you it is. It goes to a well dig. Also, hey, we're getting together. And I want to see you at our workshop on April 16th. It's a Tuesday, 6 p.m. in Elyria, Ohio. We're going to talk about managing money in an election. It's $15 a person, and 100% of that money goes to the Amazon well trip. So funding the trip, getting people there, it's 100% goes to it, okay? 100%. And if you want to give more when you're there, we'll take it. There's going to be people there that have been on well trips. You're going to get to meet Corey and Alyssa and Melissa and Sagatis, who's Brazilian. So you'll meet those people. You can chit-chat with them about the trip. And if you want to go, we'll also talk to you about that because we do take listeners have gone with me before, and this trip is particularly interesting to me because it's really deep in the jungle. Now, we live on a boat that's modern and has flush toilets and showers and a kitchen and everything, and we travel along the river. You're never in danger from a snake in the jungle. I've never seen a snake in the jungle, and I've been in it many, many times. So April 16th, you got to call the office. That number's scrolling down here to make your reservation. And you got to have a reservation. We only have 100 seats, and they're all going to be filled. So I want you to be there, and I'll stay as long as you want me to. We're going to have a question and answer period where you write down your questions and hand them in. So nobody has to come up to the microphone if they don't want to. You know, some people get freaked out about that. I've never met a microphone that I haven't liked. And no matter what the subject is, I feel like I could talk for 2 hours about it. So, but I'll get you out of there at a reasonable time so you can get home. You don't have to get a hotel or anything. So let's talk about what's going on with this hat. Okay, I'm going to tell you, we had a CPI report. That's the inflation report that the Federal Reserve relies on. It came out last week. And I'm telling you, it was hot. It was super hot. A lot of people were saying it's going to be 2%. It might even be less than 2%. What was over 3%? It was 3.1%. And housing went up even higher. Housing went up in that 1 month period, 0.6%. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. It is a lot, but it doesn't sound like a lot because you got to kind of extrapolate it over 12 months. And that is 7.2% rise in housing. And the Fed pays attention to that number. And you know what I think happened is late last year, November, Chair Powell had a meeting, and he missed an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity. You know, a legitimate opportunity to raise rates one last time, to get one more quarter-point rate hike in there. And they just kind of took a pass on it. They thought things were slowing down enough. And the thing is that inflation now is kind of baked into wages. You look at the UAW contract, the UPS contract, these are like 40% pay hikes. Now, I want people to make money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't pay them. But for a lot of people, your pay hike that you're getting isn't even keeping up with inflation. So yeah, you might be making more money, but you're actually still losing money. You're behind the curve because costs have gone up 20% in the last 3 years under this administration. And oh yeah, your wages went up 5, 6, 7, 8%. Well, that's a 12. Let's say they went up 8%. You're still down 12%. You're losing money with this administration. So Chair Powell misses this opportunity last year to raise rates. And then, well, we're going to look at the data. Well, now we got the data and it's not good. So what is all this leading to? What it's leading to is this. It's leading to stagflation. And stagflation is kind of an insidious thing because it pits the Fed against the Fed. Up until now, the Fed has really been in a tug of war with the administration because the administration's spending money we don't have, creating inflation, especially early on in their administration when supply chains were still significantly constrained. And they're out there spending $6 trillion here, $6 trillion there. Well, that's what led to the spike in inflation. They did it. They did it on purpose, by the way, to try and inflate their way out of excessive debt. This is all planned. Nobody's this dumb. So they planned it. They were hoping that wages would keep up, but they're nowhere close. And now it's like kind of like Frankenstein. Frankenstein was a doctor. His monster was, the guy with the flat head and the bolts in his neck. He got out of control. Frankenstein couldn't control him. In a lot of ways, inflation is like Frankenstein's monster right now. They're really at risk of losing control of this. And what stagflation does is it takes the battle away from the Fed versus the administration, and now it's the Fed versus the Fed. And let me tell you why. What stagflation is rising prices. That's the inflation part, the rising prices, inflation. And you got a slowing or stagnating economy. You put those two words together, stagflation, a stagnating economy with rising prices. Well, if you had a stagnating economy, we know what to do. We cut rates. And that should kind of kickstart the economy. If we just had rising prices, we know what to do. You raise interest rates, so you slow down money. You slow down the velocity of money. You make it so it's more expensive to buy a house. So somebody that was going to buy a house at a 3% mortgage will say, well, at 7%, I'm not going to buy a house. So you just slowed money down. So we know what to do in those two situations. But when those two situations, you've got stagflation, you've got inflation, and they're happening at the same time, now what do? Because if you say, well, if Chair Powell has to decide on a course of action, if he says, well, I'm going to fight inflation, okay, so you're going to raise rates. That's what you've just decided to do. Well, now you're slowing down the economy even more. Does he want to do that? Does he want to get the unemployment rate to 4.5%, 5%? Probably, it's easy to say, well, we just need the unemployment rate at 4.5%. But at the end of that number is real people losing their jobs. That's traumatic for people. If he says, well, I want to fight the slowdown by lowering rates, then you make a commitment to rising inflation. And as Arthur Burns found out in the 70s, that really works against you. And Joe Biden and the Biden administration in total is finding this out. People don't have confidence in their economic plan because they know when you go to the grocery store and you look at your cart, the $100 in your cart now is, it seems like to me, half of what $100 bought 3 years ago. It's not good. And people feel this. And so they're saying, well, we've accomplished so much. We've accomplished so much. You know what you've accomplished is you shrunk the size of my shopping cart. That's what you've accomplished. And people are really mad about this. So if Chair Powell says, I'm going to speed up the economy, that means he's going to cut rates. He's going to let inflation skyrocket. That gets even worse. The administration doesn't want that. They also don't. So do you see the problem? This tug of war. Now the Fed is fighting with the Fed. The Chair Powell is fighting the man in the mirror. This is a really dangerous thing. So there's one other choice that you could do too. There's one last choice that Chair Powell has, and that is to do nothing. To do nothing. Well, the market, the talking heads, the people on CNBC, I can't even believe I'm going to say this. MSNBC. Don't think that I watch MSNBC. Do not accuse me of that heresy. I don't watch it. Sometimes I flip over it just to see who the stupid people are on it. But Fox News, Fox Business, Reuters, all these talking heads are saying, well, there's going to be 6 or 7 rate cuts this year. You should have listened to me. I know you did. If you listened to me, you knew that I said there is not going to be 6 or 7 rate cuts this year. We'll be lucky to get 3 rate cuts this year. Now I think I was overshooting the mark at 3. I think we might get 2, maybe. And towards the end of the year, towards the end of 2024. So if he does nothing, if Chair Powell does nothing and just lets things work out, it is possible that a softer landing is still in place, but people now are talking more about recession. I think 6 or 7 rate cuts now, totally off the table. They were totally off the table before if you listened to me, but now other people are believing it. They were living on what I call hopium. You know, I put out a quarterly newsletter, which I'm going to start putting out during the election season through November and maybe even to December once we know the results of the election. I'm going to do it monthly. So the next one will come out around March 1st. It may be a little bit of a rehash. Corey's going to remind me to do this. I think what I wrote in this newsletter that just came out was gold. Solid gold. I'm telling you, I wrote this thing. I read it to myself because I get it in my email. I read it to myself and I thought, this is beautiful. It was beautiful. It really was beautiful. So you can expect that to be coming out. You got to be a client to get it. I'm sorry, we don't send it to non-clients because it's just too much of a hassle. We don't want to do that. There's got to be some fringe benefit to being associated with us, aside from the humor and the boyish good looks. Okay, there's got to be. And that's one of them. That's one of many. We also have a widows and orphans policy here where if you're a widow, we're not going to charge you. If you need something done, if you need me to look at a portfolio or something, I believe that we have to take care of widows and orphans. God commanded us to do that. God commanded us to do that. In the book of Isaiah, the split kingdoms, Judah and Israel were in such deep sin. God said, I'm even going to forsake the widows and the orphans this time. And to my knowledge, I'm not a biblical scholar, but I read the Bible every day and I teach Sunday school. I don't know of any other place in the Bible where he did that. But he did that there. But we're not going to do that. We take care of people. I feel we have a calling to give back. There's more to life than just ringing the register every time somebody calls. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So I care about people and I want to see them do well, especially the believers in this audience. I owe it to people to do that. And so Chair Powell is probably going to do nothing right now. That's my guess, unless we get a really hot CPI report come out next month. And then he's going to be Arthur Burns because he's going to have to raise rates again. I don't want to see that happen, but there's no way that you could cut rates when the GDP is growing like the administration is telling us. I don't know if I believe it. There's no way that you could cut rates when unemployment is at 3.8%, even though full-time jobs are coming down and part-time jobs are going up, and government employment is the lion's share of new jobs. And there's no way that you could cut rates when the housing market is as hot as it is, even with higher mortgage rates. You don't cut rates. And when things are going as well as the administration wants us to believe, you don't cut rates into that. The reason you cut rates is because things are going poorly. I do think we're going towards a slowdown. Is it a recession? I don't know yet. It doesn't look like it right now, but things can turn relatively quickly against you. And I feel like they already are. You're seeing pretty big layoffs from big companies, Microsoft, Amazon, UPS. It's happening all over the place. And some people believe, well, that's because we just hired too many people during the pandemic. And that could be true. That could all be true. Ford now is rethinking their EV production. Toyota is going back to the hybrid. You see, the things are the tide is kind of turning a little bit, and people are totally dissatisfied with this administration's handling of the economy. Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy with the border. Nobody's happy with inflation. They haven't really accomplished that much, except they passed a couple of really big bills when they owned both sides of Congress. Well, that's not really an accomplishment to me. And they caused enormous inflation that is now getting baked in, and that is a dangerous place to be. I got one listener question that I want to go over. Husband and wife, small business, they make pretty good money. They want to set up a retirement plan. Should they do a 401k? No. Husband and wife, no other employees. You should do a simplified employee pension plan, otherwise known as a SEP. In 2024, you could put in the lesser of $69,000 or 25% of your income, whichever is less. That's a lot of money to be able to put into a retirement plan. And because you have no other employees, it makes total sense. There's no 5,500 forms. Administration is easy. Super easy to set up. You could do it anywhere. Anywhere. Don't do it at a bank because they're going to want you to buy CDs and annuities. And friends don't let friends buy annuities or CDs. So a SEP is the way to go. Now listen, I want you guys to be at the workshop. I want 100 people there. I want to answer questions. I'll kiss babies and shake hands. I got a sash that I'm going to wear special for, I get awarded a lot of things like Supreme Leader, Mr. Universe. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but on the radio, Brian accuses me of buying those sashes myself, which may or may not be true. But I have a special one for that. I want you guys to be there. I want to meet you guys. My phone is hooked up to the lab. I don't know how that happened, but we go on. So April 16th, nativosusa.org. I am David Safransky, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.